Hey guys, welcome to the Spiritual Evolution Podcast. Today's episode is going to be an awesome interview with Linda Farby. She is an award-winning intuitive artist, and we learn so much about her journey as well as incorporating intuitive artwork into healing and our mental health journey as well as our spiritual journey. So I'm so excited to share this episode and conversation with you guys, and I hope you enjoy it and have an amazing, beautiful day. I have these little cool LED lights on my headphones. I thought you would like that. For some reason I thought you'd get a kick out of these.
Those are cool. Yeah, I love it. Well, it's good to meet you.
It was so crazy. Just one of the first videos I saw today on TikTok was that painting you did with the dragonfly.
The dragonfly, right? Yeah.
And it's like my grandpa, he passed away right before my son was born, and he's definitely one of my main guides, and he sends me dragonflies a lot, so I find that it was so perfectly synchronized and everything when I saw that this morning on your page. Well, it was on my For You page, but
Wow. Oh, yeah, he's with you.
I am so excited right now to finally talk to you and have you on here. I'm just I'm super excited. I really am so inspired by your work and intrigued by everything about what you do. What called you to start doing intuitive art? What was the pull there?
Gosh, it's like an evolution. You know how you kind of find yourself on the path, and so I mean, I was an artist since birth, right? Like 5 years old, I was making little still lifes and drawing jewelry at my mom at the jewelry store she worked in when she'd take me to work. I'd sit and keep myself occupied in restaurants, the placemats when they had those. So I always was just making art. And then I was a horrible student, from the time that they put me in a classroom until I escaped that. And art kind of saved me in some ways there. And so I made the connection between art and healing. And then I just didn't know that I could do college until I was 30. So I didn't go back to school until I was 30. And that's when I had a career as an artist, just professional, traditional. I made art and sold it on eBay. And then I was always interested in metaphysics and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. And art therapy was on my list of things I was interested in. And as a single mom, I went back to school at 30 with a 4-year-old in tow, full time. It was insane. But it was great. It was really great. And I got my degree in art therapy. And it was in there and it's funny because I ended up going to a Catholic college, which I'm not a very religious person. I grew up and I went to a Catholic grade school, which is probably why I had such a hard time in school. But anyway.
I went to Catholic school my whole life. I was sent to a Catholic school and from grade school up to college. It was, yeah.
No. And so the first class I had as a college student was theology because I had to take it, and I was like, whatever, I really didn't care. Let's get it out of the way. But the first day, the first class, and the first question I was asked was well, how do you connect to God? And I was like, oh, through art. It was just, oh, that's how. And then I started looking at what I was doing, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm communicating with God or my higher self or whatever name you want to give it, but I'm actually having this conversation with that part of myself through my art. And that's when it started to click. And then so I was doing it all that time. I just never really knew what I was doing. And then and then it just kind of evolved from there. I thought I'd become an art therapist, but I got sick instead and ended up not being able to write and do things. So I made oracle cards. And then the oracle cards, because I made oracle cards, people were like, oh, well, you must do readings too. And I was like, I could, but let's try it, And yeah, everything I was doing for myself, I could do for other people. So that's kind of that's the long story to the.
No, I love that. That's that's why we're here. So what does like this paint gazing mean? Because I find that to be something that really is intriguing to me. I really love that, and that's just so beautiful.
And I want to say someone I met on TikTok here coined that term. Like I've forever been trying to figure out, I've called it intuitive art. And I thought I was doing something unique, but there are a lot of intuitive artists, right? And I didn't know that until a few years back. And I was like, but it's something else, it's something else. And then someone called it paint gazing, another artist. And I was like, that's exactly what it is. That is so perfect. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And that I've been doing my whole life. That's just what how I've always been creating. Yeah.
Found art, like I got really into it when I finally like was beginning to find myself again and like having my independence back, and once like I was separated from my like toxic relationship, and we were in separate states, and I had my son, and it really just changed my whole perspective on so many different things, and I really got into expressing myself through my art, and it wasn't something that like I had to work for or anything. I just was able to just like do it, and it just flowed naturally. And it was something that I was able to get what I wanted to say out without having to talk, like without having words for it.
And that experience of being a single parent and stuff, it's so isolating. And you want and there's no, unless someone actually experiences it, there's no way to put it into words anyway. All of those things of relationships and that grieving, and it's such a grief and a loss, and it's a weird mix of stuff that it's so beyond words. So yeah, that makes sense. Is that your artwork in the background?
Some of it is like little things like on my friend's altar. Those are like hers and stuff, and but most of my artwork is like out in my living room where I do most of my like videos and stuff. I'm in my room right now because I have my parents taking care of my son out there. So and it's like with like the paint pours and stuff, it's like I can totally see like it's kind of like your art where it's like a bunch of different like you can see so many different aspects in it, and I love how you like find different beautiful things inside of it that you create into like a in more in-depth painting, and I think that is so cool. Like I'm starting to include and offer like different sigils or like runes or Reiki symbols because I'm a Reiki master, so I like to incorporate that with my artwork and just like make it a little bit more magical than it already is, like have that option on my site for people.
Oh, that's cool.
Where did you like how did your spiritual journey begin? Like what was your first awakening?
I was just having this conversation with, I did a reading for someone yesterday, and I was just talking about that because I don't know if it's I don't I don't feel like I ever had a spiritual awakening. I feel like I came in awakened. But I've also, and so because I've been kind of looking around the world like what the fuck is wrong with all of you? Like, don't you see? Like that's since birth, like since I was little, when I was when I was in grade school, I had, when Facebook came out, I had someone reconnect from grade school, and they're like, I remember you in third grade or fourth grade, you refused to stand for the pledge and the prayer, and you told everybody that we were being brainwashed. And I mean, this is my view since I was born, was like, and I remember like job, like working. I was like, why do people spend 8 hours a day doing something I hate? Like, what is the point of that? Like, I've just always questioned. So I've been this weird awakened person forever. But I feel like I'm going through, and I think there are a series of kind of leveling up, is the way I think. And I think what's happening right now, I feel like is an awakening for those of us who are meant to lead it, and that's what's really coming through right now, is like people are going through awakening. So those of us who are kind of like sleeper cells, like we're sitting here waiting for this is our time to awaken. And so I feel like I'm going through an awakening now, like, oh, I gotta really like do all this stuff that I said I came here to.
Yes, it's like collectively, and it's like we have to actually pioneer this ascension of humanity, and it's a lot. Like it could definitely get overwhelming, and it's like we actually have to do all this work and show these people like how yes, you're capable of all of these different things that we are doing.
Yep, exactly. Yep, you get it.
So, is there any more like you would like to expand on the evolution of your art and your experience with intuitive artwork and all of that? Is if there's any more you want to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, so when I started my career in 2001, so I at that time, so take it back to 2001, there was no like digital cameras weren't even really a big thing, you know. So I had to scan my artwork into like, a paint program and stuff. It was ridiculous. I couldn't just snap it and throw it up on Facebook. There was no Facebook, there was no Google. Google was new at that time. So it was really pioneer, like covered wagon shit. But I learned HTML, like all this stuff. But anyway, my actual process, my paintings were they kind of came out of like I think I did a lot of tie dye. Like I'm a deadhead. Like I loved like give me let me go free in the woods and like make tie dyes and eat berries and shit like whatever, and so my paintings came out of that. Like I would just throw paint on it, and when they first started, I was putting paint down and folding unstretched canvas in half and then opening it up, and I was looking at it with the line going vertically, right? And I would see like faces or angels and stuff like that. And then I flipped them sideways and I did this whole series that I called reflection series where they were reflections in water. So there was a horizon line, and then it was like I would see because the canvas had this cool like ferns and stuff, and I would just put little trees and then I'd put the tree reflection in the water, and I just spent all day. And that's when I first became a mom. So when you have a new baby, they sleep a lot, which you should be too. But so whenever he would sleep, I would paint, and then I put the stuff, yeah, you get it. And so I made like I sold tons of them. So that's how I kind of like started my career with these reflection series. And then I started moving from just folding canvas in half to like squirting. I was doing paint pouring before that was like a thing. So I was just pouring paint on the canvas to see what happened. I squish it around. I would take huge canvases and take them outside, and my son and I would like stomp on it like grapes, spray water on it and like just make all kinds of fun textures. And so they'd be abstract, but I can never leave things alone. So I would sit there and look, and I'd sit there and trip out on them because I used to smoke a lot of weed. I don't do any drugs now, but I would just sit there and like, not when I was a mom, but long before, so my brain still does.
So funny. That's another question I was going to ask you about is if you've ever like had a spiritually psychedelic experience with looking at artwork. And I guess that's kind of what paint gazing is. Like I guess like you do how you find the different things in the abstract, right? You find the pieces of things that we label or can create into objects or like animals or whatever in an abstract that's just piece of artwork that's just colors and shapes to another person.
Yeah. Yeah. So my brain does that naturally, right? I don't need acid or any hallucinogens. I can just like go like, oh yeah, okay, I can trip out on that, and I can make it, And I do that with my paintings. But what the evolution hasn't really been the technique. The evolution's been what I'm tapping into. So I learned through healing touch, which is like Reiki, like how to sense that subtle energy and how to ground myself and how to protect myself and what energy is mine and what energy is not. And so that's what's changed. And so now, instead of just randomly picking up stuff, I'm focused in on what do I want to, I believe our perception reveals our vibration. So I set my vibration to a certain way, and then that's what I get out of it, and then I can translate it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're channeling for a certain aspect of like situation, and that's how you can make it into like a reading. And I totally can see that. So on your site that you really do enjoy books, and so do I. So I'm always looking for good new books. So do you have any favorite books or authors that you'd like to share or suggest?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I've got a ton. I'm surrounded by books, but okay, so like my favorite books, just I love, I don't read a whole lot of fiction. It's mostly nonfiction, but I do love the Dragonlance Chronicles. It's like Dungeons and Dragons type, like I love that genre, like fantasy. Um, and Hobbit and that kind of thing. My favorite books from childhood were the Serendipity series. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. There's like these, I have one. They're like those little, they're like real thin, flat books. You know what have you seen those like from childhood? I don't know. Like they're like little animations. They're from the 80s though, so you wouldn't know those, but they're like these little creatures, right? Like out of the 80s, the animation in the 80s was so weird. And these were just little, they're cute. So those are my favorite books from childhood. My favorite art therapy books is Trust the Process by Sean McNiff. He's an art therapist. And then, so I have a section on, so I have a business called the Artsy Apothecary, and I'm working on that website, but that will have a library like references of all these books. So, but the Souls Palette is really good, and that one's by another art therapist, American art therapist, Kathy Melchiotti. Like she writes so much. I don't know how she does her work because she's constantly writing amazing things, but and you'll see her on like whatever that website, psychology.com or something like that. Like she's always writing on that website. But so the Souls Palette's so good. And then my favorite art therapy book is Art is a Way of Knowing, and it's by Pat Allen. And I think she was in like the Chicagoland, so that's where I grew up, was outside in the suburbs of Chicago. And she had a studio there, a community art studio called the Art Open Studio Project. And that's what really inspired me in the work that I've done, because I've done like art support groups and things like that, where you just have this open studio concept where people can come in and just make art for whatever they need.
So yeah, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about was like, did you learn about the art support groups, or is that something that you came up with?
Um, No, like all the support groups I had ever attended, like I attended AA and stuff like that, so I could get a sense of what they were about and different. I created a single parent support group and things, but all the support groups that I had ever been to were focused on some problem. Like, let's all come together in our common problem, right? So I was like, what happens when someone doesn't have that problem anymore? Because like I worked in a cancer support center. And I used to always ask them, like, why is it called that? Why are we supporting cancer? Why can't we be like a health support center, And like people are like, what? I created art support groups or creative support groups, creative community, because people would come in, one person's going through the cancer experience and another person's like grieving, another person's dealing with like being going into her crone phase, like it was all, but we could all come together in our creativity, and we come together in our strengths instead of our problems, and our problem solving abilities instead of you know
Yes, come together in our healing in a collective like.
yeah, right. I think it's coming. I think yeah, it's
That's something that I've had like a bigger dream of mine is to eventually like get together with friends that do like DJ and stuff like that to start like because I was big into music festivals and all that kind of stuff, and I've had this idea like that. Now I know there's collective healing and retreats and all kinds of stuff like that, but I want like bigger scale like collective breath work and collective like festivals with that kind of stuff with like more of a healing based like not group therapy, but group breathwork, group manifestation and healing and stuff like that, which I think would be so incredible to do at a music festival type of place.
it gives me goosebumps.
It's definitely happening. It's just like it's happening now, and it feels like things are happening quicker and quicker and quicker. But it like blows my mind that people like haven't like gotten to this point already.
I think there's not there's still a majority that think that are like holding on to things that are breaking down, and that's just, yeah, that's because it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever listened to Abraham Hicks, but I remember there's a story there where Esther had like a pond and there's pipes that are going to the pond and the pond's all mucky. And so they're like, well, just lay new pipes. Instead of trying to clear out this old clogged thing, just put new ones in and then fresh water will flow. And I think we're still at the point of trying to like unclog the pipes for like, and when I say I was awakened when I came into this world, I came into this world and went, hey, every system here is broken. At like 30 years ago, at 10 years old, I was like, no, education doesn't work. The justice system's broken. The finance system's broken. Like all of it, just everything. And I think we're finally reaching a point where people are starting to go, I think everything's broken. And we just need to lay new pipes, but we're really just, but we'll get there quickly. So your ideas are the new pipes, you know? Oh, we do need to get together socially and be around other human beings in a physical way. Yeah. Music heals and being out in nature heals. Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
It's like I feel like people are waiting for like science to be proving like these things that we know in our spirit and our soul. And it's like that's why I love like spirit science and stuff like that. Like I will literally like I'll play it for my son like because it's animated and he loves it. I have their deck. Like I love it because it is important to make that it like that integration and bridge that gap for sure.
Yeah. I did too when I homeschooled. I used it as part of my homeschool curriculum. That's
And it's so funny that you say that about homeschooling because like I have been really seriously considering it lately and I I'm being told it's going to be too much of a commitment and it's like, like I'm being told all these things about why I shouldn't do it. But then within the last like week or two, now that I've talked to you, I've talked to two or like yeah, two people about like just within a couple days of each other about homeschooling and that have actually done it themselves. And like I have a friend of mine who like lives pretty closely that I just reconnected with and she has been homeschooling for like most of her kids' lives and they're in like high school, so like one of them is in high school. So um it's like there's so many resources out there now and there's so much um more of an understanding that like we can teach ourselves and the education system is not evolving, what has not evolved whatsoever, so why are we still using that same old system?
Yeah, yeah. And that's another thing that's just kind of blown up, right? It's like, oh, our education system's broken, and it's no fault of teachers because teachers are amazing. And the people that intend good things are amazing, but we're meant to teach our own children and grow our own food and build our own homes. That's just the way, that's just nature, and that's okay. Yeah. We unschooled my son. So he went to regular school for a while and then um I pulled him out here and there. We traveled a little bit and then high school he went just to go to make some connections for like a semester. And I remember like when I made the decision, I was like, well, what did I get out of high school? Well, it wasn't a whole lot of education. So yeah. So he wasn't, so if I did the worst case scenario, he wouldn't be missing out on much. Yeah.
And so another question I had about like bridging the gap, I guess, would be how can you heal mental health and neurodiversity with art? Like how does art help those issues in people issues?
So I did a lot of work in the mental health or behavioral health field. Did some of my field placement in like inpatient units. I actually I got to shadow a few art therapists and things like that. And I kind of knew early on I wasn't going to be an art therapist. And when I started my master's and I was going to become like certified, I decided against it because of it's so overly regulated that it's really hard to address individuals. And I think, you mentioned neurodiversity, it's, I was still taught, like, I took a class called abnormal psychology, like it was titled abnormal. And I just fell out of love with the field of psychology. I love science, but it's so captured and it's so, it's a mess. And so, yeah. So I think that we're kind of swinging, there's a pendulum swing and everything. And I think we're kind of swinging toward where we need to frame things, like you said before, like science kind of catches up, where our spirituality or our spiritual experience of things leads. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, I can't remember who I was listening to, but they were looking at like Maslow's, like the hierarchy of needs and stuff like that. Creative expression or self-expression is on that. I have never met anybody who isn't doesn't need to express themselves creatively in some way. And it doesn't matter what their limitations are, their abilities are, whether they are someone who is verbal or nonverbal, who can see or can't or hear or not. It doesn't matter what shape or form they come in. We all have, I think it's an existential need to express ourselves. And I think it's so odd to me. What I've been trying to figure out my whole life is why our society like doesn't value the arts when all of us love them in some shape or form. So it's such a strange thing. I'm not sure if it's a way of suppressing power, because I think our personal power comes through our, when we are really fully self-actualized in our creativity, we're some powerful motherfuckers. I mean, we just are.
Yeah, like if we are all a spirit experiencing itself, then we are all by default creatives. Like we're all creators experiencing the created. And we're all a part of that creation, but we are also a part of that creator.
Yeah. We're creations of the one creator or the the all.
All that is, right?
Yeah. Or from a Christian perspective, like their books say, like we created you in our image or whatever, so we are by nature creative, right? Yeah.
What does a typical day look like for you? Like, is there any kind of like routine or anything that you try and stick to or do on a daily basis?
Oh my gosh. That's such an interesting question. So I'm really good at creating organizational systems and like daily plans and things, and I'm just so bad at sticking to them. So I can tell you what it looks like on paper, but well, so there are some consistent things. Most days I wake up and I meditate and I walk on my treadmill because it's like 0 out right now. Um, but I drink water first thing in the morning and I consume positive stuff. I pop in headphones and I listen to like somewhat either good music, upbeat music, or a speaker on YouTube or something. And that's the first thing I do. Like I said, I think mornings are important. So that's always consistent. And then every other day I do readings for people. So those are 1 hour sessions where it's just like this, except that I'm painting too. And I do readings. I can only do about 3 in a row of those until I'm like battery's dead. Um, but I also, I work where I live, and so I do laundry and I'll cook and stuff like that. And my son is now 20, so he's, I don't have to do his laundry and stuff anymore. But we have lunch together when he's here and stuff, so that's nice. I do my basic, I work on my website, fill orders and all that kind of stuff. I spend way too much time on TikTok because every time I go out, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna post something and like check and like reply to people, and then I end up spending at least an hour laughing my ass off at something. my time in. And I'm really good about like the other apps. I spend almost no time on those. There's something about TikTok I just really love. Like I've got a great feed. I mean, it's great people on there. So um yeah, but that's pretty much my day. I read at night. And then every once because I have an autoimmune, I've got Hashimoto's, and so I have chronic pain and I have a headache almost every day. Sometimes it turns into a migraine. So some days if I deviate from my morning and 2 miles of walking and meditation and breathing and water and vitamins, all that shit, if I deviate from that, I end up with a migraine and like can't see and stuff like that. So it's really important. And I'm like such an oppositional person. I have a hard time with it. But yeah, so I mean I've been dealing with that for a long time. But yeah, that's I don't know. So every day's a little bit different, but I just created a new schedule for myself. So like Mondays, I'll do Mandala Mondays. So I love painting live with other people. So I'll do Mandala Mondays, and then Tuesdays I do readings. Sundays I do my weekly paint gazing. Wednesdays I'm plan on coming on and doing like mini sessions. So I'll let people pick like one or two colors, and then I'll paint for one person at a time and do little mini readings. That's really fun, but it gets chaotic. Um, it's nuts. And then I want to start a little like podcast too on Fridays. I want to do my little inspiration soup podcast.
Oh my god, I love that idea so much. That's such a cute idea. Yes, do it. That sounds a lot like my day too. Like I read at night. I actually do that same thing. Like I take in like positive stuff. Like I listen to podcasts or like YouTube videos, channeling stuff like that. Educational stuff in the morning when I'm getting ready, and I meditate every morning. And I do my best to get some water in there. But it's funny because like, and I've also been waking up a lot earlier as of lately because like I need that time to myself. Like I need like some time before like to get my head and my energy right for the day before I have to be like momming all day, you know?
It makes a difference, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. It, it's amazing like what we put in and then what comes out. It's yeah, because if I get on the YouTube and I listen to one of the like political or any kind of like drama shit start like first thing in the day, I am just yeah, it drains me. And I still watch that stuff. I just try not to do it in the morning.
Yes, yeah, your mornings are so powerful. Like how you start your day is extremely powerful and it's extremely like it can be life changing. It really fucking can.
Those early morning hours are precious. They're wonderful. Oh, I love early morning and coffee. Oh,
Well, funnily enough, actually, with like coffee, I have a story. So I was drinking like a lot of like iced coffee. Like I've always loved iced coffee, but I was drinking a lot of regular coffee when I moved in here. And then when I got my Reiki like third attunement, and I was going through that upgrade, it was also around the same time as that last year during the first eclipse and like the first big retrograde and just a lot of like energy upgrades and just shifts and stuff like that were happening, and I couldn't hold coffee down any longer. Like it just was like nope, not happening. Like and my body like kept rejecting it, and it was so funny because actually somebody came in and told me like your body's going through an upgrade right now, like on my live said this. And I ended up like thrifting my coffee maker and stuff, and now like I still figure like after some 6 7 8 months without coffee, I started drinking a lot more water. But I drink iced coffee because I went to the retreat and we had iced coffee, and I was like, oh my god, I can drink iced coffee and I can actually handle it now. And then like I wasn't like scared to drink coffee anymore. So like I get it. I fucking love coffee.
I could sit and smell it all day. I just like warm beverages. I think I could just drink plain hot water.
Yeah, so what is one of the like most challenging things that you have overcome in your life, that like one of the most like hardest lessons that you've ever learned?
Oh gosh. I think I don't know why it's just popping up. It's like the empath thing, right? Like the empath and narcissist, that whole story. That's I just saw my ex in my head, like as you said, what difficulties. Yeah, I just had, so it's like I had this weird experience of reconnecting to someone. I knew this person when we were children. I mean, we used to go ride bikes together and as like 10-year-old, 12-year-olds or something, I don't know. And then we reconnected and had like a romance. It was like intense, and I think he helped. He was such, I don't know if like he was a twin flame because I don't really know those terms very well, but um, it was, he was, I used to call him the turd that wouldn't flush. Like he just wouldn't. But it was also so wonderful, and I miss him. He died, like, and the weird thing that happened. Now he was an addict like his whole life, and trauma, had so much trauma and stuff. But he had that like gooey center where he was just a lovable. If you got broke through, you could find the lovable part. And I was so. And what I learned from him was that just because I'm really good at finding that in people and seeing good in people doesn't mean I don't need those challenges anymore to know that. And I don't, I had to admit to myself that I really loved being so good at loving someone that was so unlovable, even to themselves.
Okay, like you're like literally hitting my heart chakra like so hard right now. I can't.
I have a feeling that's why I need to share this with you. So, and I'm still grieving him and stuff like that, but he, uh, he just used me really bad. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And I kept like, he got hit by a freaking car. And then like I baby bird saved him. You know what I mean? Like he was a baby. He was like a 6-foot baby bird. Like, and then like as soon as he healed up, he was like, like attacked, and I just kept doing it. And I just, and it was like, I think one of the things I learned from it too was, one of those messages that we learn when we are indoctrinated into some ideal things where every person is Jesus. And if you don't save every person, you're like denying Jesus, right? Like, do you remember getting that message of like every, and so I remember thinking like, if I don't help him, I'm bad, no matter how bad it hurts me to even, if I don't sacrifice myself for this human, then I'm a bad person.
100%. 100%.
And I did, and I made choices that I'm not proud of. That I put him ahead of myself and sometimes my son.
Yeah, I feel like I did that when I was pregnant. Like I was still in that feeling like it was going to work or I was going to make it work and that was unhealthy for me and for my son.
It was awful, and I feel a lot of like guilt and stuff like that. But so you have people like that, right? And then you reach this point when you get out of that situation. Not only do you have to forgive them and let go of all that stuff in order to function and move forward, it's not even that, because that's fine, because you've already done that. You've already or I've already, and I'm speaking for both of us, sorry.
I've done it too. Like that part I feel I have done and it's like I'm still moving through a lot of it. But I feel like no, I'm with you. Like I'm fucking with you.
We forgive other people so easily, but it's ourselves. I have to forgive myself for making those choices, and I have to forgive myself for not taking care of my own self, and not honoring the amazing divine person that I am, and seeing that in myself where I can see that in every other person in the world. So turning that light. So that's so if there is any lesson that I've learned, and from my past life regressions, I've had several past lives where I died alone in a cave, where I didn't ask for help, and I isolate. You know how like cats or animals would go and hide. I was like that, and so this life, I'm meant to let other people into my pain and allow myself to, move through things like that. So it's a huge lesson, and he was part of it. And do you know that he died the last time that we interacted? Because we were at a point where I would only text message him. I wouldn't talk to him because I just couldn't. It's like an addict, like I couldn't take one drink. Otherwise, I'd binge on him. And it sounds weird, but like,
No, I completely understand that. I talk about how it's like an addiction, like being with another person with the love bombing and the chemicals that are released in the brain and all of that. And it is a form of addiction. I am in recovery myself, so
I had to have that boundary, but I didn't want him out of my life completely because I cared about him. So I would just text, and he asked me for money, and
like it literally it's so weird how similar they sound, because it's like that's what it was for me, like when I was still pregnant and stuff, and I was like still messaging, and that was like the only way, because we were, we don't even know each other now, but we couldn't, see each other back then, and so I see that.
yeah. So the last time that I texted him, he asked for money, and I said no for the first time. I said no for the first time, and then a week later he was dead. And that was my biggest fear, was that if I didn't take care of him, he would die. And I realized my biggest, and I felt guilt, which I don't need to feel.
And the thing is, it's like you would have felt guilty either way, and it's not your fault, but you would have felt guilty if you gave him money or not.
Well, right. I mean, it wasn't, he was, he had pneumonia. He was in the hospital, and he was smoking weed in the bathroom in the hospital. Like, it's not my fault that he died, like, but we do that to ourselves, and we're like, oh, but I could have saved him, or I could have, so it's taken me, it's been like 2 years since then. But yeah, so I used poetry, and so coming back to, so I used art to help myself work through that. I write poetry too, which you don't see that much because it's very like angsty. Like, whatever, you can find it if you look for it on, maybe like on Facebook or something, but so that's how I healed from that. And I do have some artwork that I did around it too, because like you said, beyond words, I have a practice of visual journaling that I used to figure out what it is, because sometimes we feel things and we don't know what it is. And so that's how I discovered a lot of the stuff that I've known from that experience came through in my artwork, and it still does.
Girl, you're making me want to paint right now. Like, just go and like throw some paint on a fucking canvas. Just
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to trigger anything, but and that's just it. Yeah, just throwing it down and get it out of here, get it out of here and onto a canvas or paper or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's been like nonstop test after test after test after test after test after test, and it's just like, it's like the universe is like, do you really want it though? Like, are you really gonna like actually do what you say you're doing and what you've been doing? Are you gonna stick to it even if we throw you like challenge after like so much bullshit? It's like piled onto it. It's just into infinity, and I'm just sitting here like, yep, well, I guess I just gotta push through it. And it's just like, yeah, like I fucking want it, like.
Oh my gosh, I had that. Yes, that happens all the time, because I was so proud of myself because I drew a boundary with someone. And then something really out of the ordinary happened somewhere else. And I was like, but how? And it was just like the universe is like, are you sure that you really want to you be this person now? And I was like, damn it, yes, I have to, yeah.
I'm like nervous. That's like the energy of this year is gonna just be like challenging me. Like, and I'm so.
It doesn't have to be. It can go through quickly.
It's like I don't know how many more of these like little like pushes or can take. No, but I know that I can take it, and I know it's only happening because it's gonna make me stronger, and I'm going to develop from it and grow and all of these things. But it's like, god damn, like, is it really like I have to redo this again?
Things move exponentially, right? So they feel slow in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's just.
Yeah, it's like a slingshot effect. Like, this is what me and another girl were talking about on here. With Trinity, the first person that I did my podcast with, the first person I interviewed, and it was like I was talking about how like it feels like it has been taking too long, and she's like, it's gonna be kind of like a slingshot effect. Like, it's like you think it's going slow, and then it's just like gonna happen, and we're gonna like realize like, oh, we're already in, like, the awakening is the ascension, the quickening, whatever you want to call it, is already happening. So if you had unlimited resources, what are the first three things that you would do?
I'm all like, well, I want a house. If I have unlimited resources, that I'm not good with unlimited things. I need some sort of structure. But yeah, like now you got my brain going like, how could I possibly like reach every single person on the planet and give them like their own resources to have water and food and like basic needs? That would be okay. So that, let's say everybody on the world has their basic needs met. In that case, then I would I'm so focused on, I want a house so badly. Like I just that's really what I've been focused on, is a space that I have a physical space in my vortex, so to speak. That's the artsy apothecary, which is earth ships. They're sustainable buildings. It's a community, but it's also kind of a transient community. So it's not like, everybody, I don't want a bunch of people coming living with me, but they can come and visit for festivals. And it's an art and healing, retreat kind of thing. But I live there, and you can come and visit me by the fireplace or something, like that kind of drop in, kind of open place, but also for people to learn. And I think that I feel like I'm moving a little bit toward becoming a little bit more nomadic. And so I'll probably move, but yeah, I don't know, like I don't need too much. There's not like, I just need to feel a little bit of security, like know that I'd have a big, I think we really need to move into smaller villages again. When you see big civilizations break down, they usually kind of regress into smaller villages. And I think we just need to be proactive and say like, okay, each little county town, whatever, we need to focus on growing our own food so we don't rely on trucks, and, like start doing that. And I'd love to be part of that. So if I had all unlimited resources, I would do that too. I would definitely have something. I want to support other artists too, because there's just too many people that are like that just don't value themselves. See, this is what I see happening, is they don't value themselves because the message they receive about the arts and the artists are that people don't value the arts. And so because people identify as an artist, they get this really strong message from all of society saying that you're not worth much because you are creative. And that's so
Messed up.
that's not true. It's ridiculous. So I would do something about that too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I can't wait to have my own, like, very own, like, plot of land. I was supposed to say planet. I can't wait to have my very own plot of land where I'm able to, explore on my own, and build my own little kind of community for my family and loved ones. So if you had the whole entire world's attention for 30 seconds or so, 30 seconds to a minute, what is the concept you would tell them or teach them?
That's a cool question. I think I would say that you're a master, like you're a masterpiece. You're already a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time. And I think you deserve to see yourself that way. And I think that I don't know why I see it in younger generations don't have it as much as my generation does, that we're like, I see people that are able to look at themselves and say, yeah, I'm pretty freaking, humans are awesome, like I'm one of those amazing creatures. And I think we're slowly overcoming that. But if I could teach people like just to express yourself because nobody else can do it. Like I can't make your music for you, you know.
Yes, nobody can be you. You're unique, most authentic, highest self. Nobody can, do the evolution and the work and growth for you, and nobody can be you like you can be you. Like like you have to find that spark within yourself. Like you have to do the work for yourself. You can't evolve like for them.
And I can channel paint. I can channel your images sort of, but they're still going to come through my lens, you know. I like to teach people to do it themselves as much as possible. Yeah.
And I definitely feel like that's part of the reason that I'm here is to like help show like the world that it's within you, that everybody has that sixth sense, so to speak, or all of these healing abilities. Like we all have those abilities. It's just tapping into them. It's just working on them. It's working on ourselves as a whole.
There's a quote that I don't even know who it's. I usually see it attributed to anonymous something, but it's an artist is not a special kind of person. Every person's a special kind of artist. And I think that's with healers too. Like a healer is not a special kind of person. Every person is a special kind of healer. Yeah, these are things that we are all capable of in our own unique ways.
But yeah, and that's so true too, because it's like I was actually at a show like over the summer and I was talking to this girl about star seeds and stuff, and we were talking about like how, with Reiki, like you don't necessarily have to be attuned. Like I was very fortunate to have met my Reiki master when I did and get like an in-person attunement and stuff, but you can tap into those abilities, those healing abilities all on your own. Like you can tap into it yourself. The attunements helped me at the time to gain the confidence I needed for sure. But like we were talking about how there's like all these different healing modalities and all these different types of healers and healing work, because there's so many different types of like star seeds or races on Earth is like a melting pot for all these different star seed and galactic races, and human and regular Earth races too. So it's so super interesting to think about how like we all are bringing our own healing modality to the table, and we can show others how to use like interpret healing in a new way.
Well, and I think we all have different. I mean, I don't know if you ever listened to Daryl Anka. He channels Bashar, and he calls it permission slips, right? And it's like the Dumbo feather. Like we all have different Dumbo feathers that we need. Or have you ever heard of that guy, John of God? Like this was super creepy. Like he would scrape people's eyeballs or he would like cut into their arm and then cure their blindness. Like it wasn't logically like they'd scrape the cornea of the eyeball and like their breast cancer would go away. Or like they were extreme like surgical procedures. But I think the way I understand it for myself, like the way I could justify it in my brain is that that's what they needed to be able to believe strongly enough in their healing. And so some people, like for me, if somebody, I respond to distance Reiki. I don't even have to know. Someone can say, "Hey, I'm going to do Reiki on you at 5 o'clock," and I'll be like, "Cool," and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm feeling it." They don't even have to do it. Maybe they're not even doing anything, but if like in that moment of saying, "I'm going to heal you at 5 o'clock," you're going to receive healing at 5 o'clock. That's enough for some people. For some people, they need scalpels, and and neither is better than the other. It's because the ultimate, at the core of it, is our belief, and it's like Bruce Lipton's biology belief, like that.
Oh my god, I have that book. I literally have that back there.
I love him.
This is definitely the next book that I'm about to read now. Thank you. I don't know why this keeps popping in my head, this question. I don't even have it written down, but like, so how has TikTok like influenced or changed your life in any ways?
So I started TikTok last February. I haven't even been on there a year, and I I resisted it because anything that's trendy, I just don't. I'm like, oh, that's not for me.
So did I.
And so I did. I wasn't on there forever, and then like I have one of my websites is through art storefronts, and one of my like artist friends through there was mentioning TikTok, and I'm like, oh, well, if you're on there, I'll go on there and follow you and support you. And so I did, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And I didn't know what it was, I think, because I'm old. I don't know. I was like, oh.
Like I thought it was like kids doing dances and shit.
I thought it was like singing, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna sing for anyone, so so but then I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these artists, and I love, and like I could watch like craft and cooking videos all day long. So like that kind of stuff, just like I could watch people make pancakes and ice cookies like all day. So that was
I'm obsessed with the cake decorating videos. Oh my god, yes.
why. Like I don't know what it is about those. It just yeah. And miniatures, I got like sucked into. So anyway, so I was like, what can I do? And so I started doing the calendar thing, and I was like, I had already been doing it, but I'm like, well, I'll put my visual journal on here and then I'll have something to post every day. And I just didn't really, and I, like all good things, I didn't put a lot of like attachment to it. And then it just kind of blew up. And I made so many more connect, like that's why I'm hardly ever on any other apps, because the engagement on TikTok is 100 times anywhere else. And, it took me years and years to grow an audience. And I get, it's like maybe 3 people are engaged in stuff on other apps. And, I feel like it's more, it's instant gratification for sure. But it's like, more engagement. And then, obviously creator funds. So my 50 cents a day or whatever is, that's good stuff. But it has changed. It for a while there, I thought, oh my God, this is having a huge impact. But I think it kind of hooks you that way, and now it's just kind of it's a part of.
You know what? It's crazy because I really feel like I have met some of the most beautiful souls on TikTok that I just have an instant connection with.
Yeah.
It's also like I've made the most incredible connections with some people that like I'm so grateful to have met and like have the chance to like get to know on like a personal level.
Well, you and I are talking because of TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because it's like I started off with like art and stuff, and it's like I have so many different little interests that like and ambitions and things that are intriguing to me that I enjoy doing and that I'm passionate about. So it's so amazing to be able to follow all of those different passions in a different way, and meet so many beautiful people that have an interest in something similar to you or the same as you.
Multifaceted, like a diamond. Yeah.
Like I have never had so much support from strangers, and never even could have ever imagined I would have gotten this much support from strangers.
No, me neither.
It's crazy also because it's like they're not even strangers. It's like my soul and our energy gets to know each other, but it's almost like our souls are already like remembering, or they already know each other. Like, and we knew that we were going to meet in this way in this life.
The quality of the connections, right? It's like I don't know if it's like targeted algorithm or what, but it's the people are such kindred souls. Like I just like I've never talked to you before, but I feel like I've known you forever.
Right? It's so true because that happens like a lot with the people I meet on TikTok. I feel like I've known them my whole life, and it's crazy. And it's like, and the energy that I get on the live, like every day when I go live, it makes me feel so good and so happy to share my energy with these people because they can tell that they really care about supporting me and they want to hear what I have to say and they want to contribute and they want to grow and they want to learn together. And it's just like something beautiful happens on the live streams that I do with these people. It really does.
Something about the lives there that are really different. Yeah, they're really high energy, and they're a whole different quality. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, it's like I've we're starting to realize collectively that like the vibration that we are at is going to affect what we attract into our lives, and it's almost like when we go on in a good mood, we're going to attract in that good vibrational energy, and those are the kind of creators we want to see. But if you don't go on in such a, or if you go on in such a like in a negative mood or whatever, you might attract the drama side or whatever side that like you don't find yourself on normally.
Yeah, and it's funny because I really I don't tend to attract weird shit, but that
It's like with the drama and stuff, it's like I'll see a post like about the drama and I'm like, I don't even know what this drama is, and it's like I don't really care, but like get like I don't know, man. I just feel bad that the people that I care about are in it.
Well, and that's how I know, like, remember I was saying that I had drawn a boundary and then had a weird experience. It was because I had someone come in and like attack me. It was the weirdest. I never have like trolls, very rarely, in a couple of videos that have like 5 million views and thousands of comments, and nobody's nasty. Out of all of those people, nobody is saying anything nasty, and I'm like, well, I'm super lucky.
Yeah, you're protected.
And so I had this one person, and I was like, what is this? And it was immediately following drawing a line with somebody else who was very similar. And they wanted my attention. I was like, nope. And then this person wanted my attention. I'm like, it was so weird. And it hasn't happened since after I dealt with it. But yeah, TikTok in general, like they're there for a good time, I think, for the most part.
Yes, and I wholeheartedly believe that we attract the vibration of what we are, going on to whatever app or into any situation with. So like if you're going into a situation or on an app in a negative or like bad mood because of something that happened or just like anything, you're going to attract that type of vibe and that type of energy into your life. Like it's crazy. It really does work like that. Like we attract what kind of frequency we're vibrating at. So if we go on an app in a like stagnant or like bad mood or just like shitty like feeling or anything like that, like yeah, it's gonna attract that type of energy to your feed, and into your realm of what you're learning about or what you're seeing or what you're taking in and absorbing. So it's so important for me, especially like I always make sure I'm cleansing and I'm protecting and I'm shielding my energy daily, especially as a content creator, like and putting my energy out there for people. You have to be so careful with like people that can siphon or take your energy, like because some people are on there specifically to do that. So it's so important to be careful about that kind of stuff.
It's happening quicker than I think it used to. I don't know. That might just be my perception, but it feels like almost instant manifestation now. Yeah.
Yes, like that happened to me when I went through my first awakening and I was fucking terrified. Like I was scared. I was like, what in the actual shit is happening right now? Like I did not understand. I was like, why am I thinking of this and it's coming up on my Tumblr page? This is weird.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lot of it's momentum. So I think people can fall into a ditch pretty easily and then not know how to get out because they get stuck in a rut of that thought train, and they, it takes a little effort to get up and out of that little, you know. So I used to ride a motorcycle in like off-road, and sometimes you kind of fall in that little ditch and you got to kind of reminds me of like if your tire grabs that, you're stuck, you're kind of stuck in there. And I think vibrationally, if you drift into the into the ditch, you can, yeah. I think that's why the morning thing, like, yeah, if we start in the morning.
In the mornings, like those are so important to me because those are like my consistency, and like I've kind of been forced into doing like a daily reading and stuff for myself because I have this journal for every day. Like it's like a planner, but it's for the more like the astrological planner kind of thing, but every day has 3 cards, like a 3 card spread, and then you write about the spread and so on and so forth. And a lot of the themes have been like focus, like getting focused and buckling down and stuff like that and staying on that path that I'm on. So what would you say has like been the best phase of your life?
I mean, besides now, because it's all here and now, right? But
I'm like, yeah, it's always getting better, right?
I there's so many. Oh God. Yeah, well, I've been doing a lot of like life review because my son's older and he's traveling now, so he like comes and goes, and every time he comes and goes, or every time he goes, I'm like, when they're like, people say like, oh, they grow up so fast, but they do, and I was like, why do people keep saying that to me when he was little? I'm like, why do you keep it? Because they're all like my age. And I've been like, so I guess part of me wants to say like, oh, when he was like wearing footy pajamas, like that time where, like that. But there were so many, and then, but now is so amazing, like seeing him. I don't know if I frame everything as a parent. We just see things I think of my history as like before being a parent, and now it's all like his when I like when he was 10 or when he was 15,
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, there's I don't know, there's so many great things. Career wise, I my a sculpture I made for a library ended up in the Smithsonian catalog. That was so cool. Yeah, I'm like listed. It's some like I don't know. It's not the Smithsonian. It's like the Smithsonian American Artists Catalog or something. And it was a surprise to find out. Like I didn't get any like plaque or anything. Like nobody told me. And then some lady at the library was like, "Oh, by the way, like you're in this international calendar and you're on the Smithsonian." And I'm like, "What?" Yeah, it was cool. So that was neat. I've won awards. So a highlight of my life is that I barely graduated from high school, right? I was like 498 out of 500 students or something. Like I barely graduated. I'm lucky that I graduated because
Me too. I didn't like I missed so much school.
didn't like to go. Well, I went. I didn't like to do anything while I was there, and then they let me leave for lunch, and I'm like, I'm gonna come back, please. So I didn't do really well. I didn't see the point. So I used to ditch class to go to the library, which is a really weird thing, and I'd read about neuroscience because
You wanted to teach yourself, as we should.
yeah, I was reading about aliens and brains and stuff. Yeah, so then at 30, I was nominated in college for Student of the Year, and I graduated like with honors or whatever, like a 3.98 or something.
Wow, that's fucking incredible.
Right? And I was like, but what's fun? So that was like a highlight, like a ha ha ha, look at me. Like my guy, you're never going to go to college. Don't even bother. And then I ended up getting nominated for Student of the Year, which is hilariously ironic. But the first time I made the dean's list, I freaked out and I went to my advisor because when I was in grade school, high school, if I were on the dean's list, that meant I was in trouble. I had to go see the dean. And I didn't realize that it was like an honorary thing. And I was like, what did I do? Like I've been to school every day, and they're like, no, because your grades are good. Like you're on the deep list. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, am I in trouble? I was just used to, I was used to being in trouble. I was always in trouble. My band directors in junior high locked me in the equipment room because I was so disruptive. That was but like huge turnaround when I wanted to do something I did. So that was a cool highlight. Yeah.
Yeah, like I almost didn't graduate high school. I like missed a ton of classes and stuff senior year, and then I went to college for a semester, and I was literally like the roommate that like got my new roommates into partying and shit. Like yeah.
I would say that's what I would have been right out of high school. I did one semester and I failed art and yeah.
Okay, what is one of the greatest accomplishments that you have had in your life?
I quit smoking a few years. I started smoking cigarettes when I was 9. Um, hmm So I mean I was born addicted to nicotine. My mom smoked, my dad smoked. They smoked in the house, like saturated in it. So it took me forever, and I tried to quit when I was pregnant, and I quit a few times, but something happened a couple of years ago where I just all of a sudden made the decision, and it was easy. And then I found myself like a couple months. I'm like, I don't smoke anymore, and I haven't thought of it for 6 months. What is going on? Like, I've never experienced not being addicted to nicotine. I've experienced not smoking. There's a, um, but the nicotine addiction cleared from my body. So I feel really, it's a weird, I don't know that I feel proud because I don't feel like I really, like, I feel like it should have been harder, but I'm really happy about it. I'm happy about not having that dependence anymore.
I completely get that. Like, I was living in addiction for years, and I'm over 2 years sober myself. I quit cigarettes myself. I understand. Like, it is something to be proud of. I only smoked, like, I smoked for a while, but then I was able to quit when I got pregnant with my son. After, a few months pregnant, I tapered off of the cigarettes pretty quickly.
Well, and I still have, I'm still working on, sugar, carb addiction, that kind of thing. Food addiction in general, but, some other, because I think addictions, it's never just one. And it's not about the substance anyway.
Yes, I was talking about this the other day, and yeah, it moves from one thing to another unless you get down to the source and to the root cause of what is making you have those behaviors and those tendencies.
These are great questions, by the way.
Oh my God, thank you. You're so fucking nice. So, what has been a humbling experience that you have had in your life?
Oh gosh, yes. I think if this is what you're asking, but maybe it's not, but I, I have self-esteem issues, so it's not hard to humble me. But one time I so single parent, on food stamps and stuff, right? Um, and God, I feel like I'm gonna cry. So I met up with a friend. I had a friend who or we weren't really even friends in high school, right? Like, this is how I know this person. Again, awful student, and I'm so sorry to all the teachers that I've ever harassed. But, but I had this teacher that I absolutely loathed, and a lot of the reasons I didn't like my teachers is because I was smarter than them. I mean, that's just the truth, and I am, it sounds horrible, but so this teacher, I was outside in the hallway, and I was just awful. Like, I was smoking a cigarette in the hallway of the school, like, and put out my cigarette, and then came in and like put my cigarette butt in her soda can. And and this has nothing to do with the humbled thing, but just to give you background of how I know the person. So this person who was in that class, like, everyone in the classroom saw me do it. Um, and then the teacher came in and took a drink. I am so gonna do some time for that one in hell or whatever if I'm not already. But no. So everyone saw it, and the teacher was like, she took a drink, she was pissed. She looked right at me because she knew, because, like, who else would do that? Each other. We just, yeah, I don't know. We had some contract, I guess. But then she points to this girl, and she says, this person's name, and she says, come with me out in the hallway, because this is like, she was a good student. And the teacher really thought that she would, like, give me up. And she didn't, of course, because she wasn't like that. So she came back in, you could see the teacher was all pissed because she was, I don't know what she said. So fast forward like 20 years, right? So now we're in our 40s, and reconnected somehow through Facebook or something. And and she came to like one of my art shows or something. So we kind of like, and then we were talking about something, and I mentioned something about not having food. This woman drove to my house because we still lived somewhat near each other. She drove, I think, like a half an hour to get to where I lived, and picked me up and took me to Walmart and filled a grocery cart full of food and everything. And I was trying to be like frugal, and she's like, no, get like all the Pringles, and like, here, get this and that. And she bought me so much. She stocked my cabinet. It was right before Thanksgiving or like Christmas or something. I remember it was like a holiday. And and it was so hard for me to accept it. But it also was like the most beautiful, like, it was amazing. It was an experience.
Wow, and you know what? That makes me think about like your past lives and how you like didn't know how to ask for help, and how that could also like be a part of this aspect of your journey in this life.
Yeah. And that's the reason that I said, like, okay, because she was asking me, like, she's like, what can I do to help you? Like, what can I. And I was like, honestly, I'm like, I don't have any food. Like, I don't have any food. And my son was like 14 or 15, so he was just like a monster, right? And I had already been to the food pantry and like, and she's like, well, let's go. Like, I'm coming to pick you up. And I'm like, oh God, no. And but it was so humbling. Um, and what the thing is like I've I've volunteered many, many hours at food pantries, and I have given hundreds of dollars to Salvation Army and stuff like that, but I have very rarely taken. And so it was like, okay, this is, yeah, it was super humbling. It was beautiful. I guess that's it was.
Like, that's the kind of thing that gives you faith in humanity again. Like, that was the kind of thing that, like, makes you say, yeah, like, all right, we're, like.
It did. It was really like, wow, humans are, we're pretty cool. Yeah.
So we have a couple more questions here. So have any, like, of your ancestors come through, like, in paintings or just in general? Like, what experiences have you had?
I've been doing, so I wanted to figure out who my ancestors are because, I was born here. And I do know that I have, I dug a little bit, and especially because I'm the last female in my line. And I was like, oh, like the matrilinear line ends with me. And so, and I don't even know who the witches that came before me are, like and so I traced my mom's line, and I did, um, I did connect with like my great 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 grandma who came over from, a lot of my ancestors are from like Belgium and Germany, France, over there, and my and Irish too. I do have some Irish roots, and but my grandma Teresa, I think her name was. She came over on a boat at like 11 years old, just her and her mom and three suitcases, and I'm like in the middle of winter, like coming across the ocean into New York with three suitcases. Like I can't, like I'm like, what's in those suitcases? So I don't, you know, I do kind of connect with her, a little bit, and then she like made her way to Chicago somehow. So I kind of, so that's just recent, connection with them. But I'm not a medium, but I do connect with those who are in spirit. I have since I was a little kid. My grandparents and I have an old dog. Like they showed up in my bedroom one night. That liminal space when you're like in between sleep and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah. I used to do a lot of like astral projection when I was little without knowing what I was doing. Um, Freaked me out. Like I'd be in the kitchen, and why can't I open the refrigerator? And then I come back to see myself in my own bed. Like, what is going on? So yeah, a lot of that stuff I kind of like closed some of those doors because I was scared as a kid and I didn't have any way of understanding that. So I'm starting to open some of those up again. But so I have an uncle who I that comes through a lot. Um, a couple of them actually, and an aunt who is very funny, and she comes through a lot. And a lot of people on my mom's side, so that's like my witch side, right? Like
Yes, it's my mom's side too. That's the more magical side.
my mother line, and a lot of people on that side of the family tree had mental health issues too. So there's some schizophrenia and there's some stuff, or they were shamans. So yeah, so they come through. I don't always recognize it, but yeah, I'm starting to learn. I'm starting to learn runes again. I learned them when I was younger, but I think that's the language that my ancestors used. Um,
Just too funny that you say runes because, like, today, like, so Long story short, like I've been working with Odin for about, since the summertime. He was studying me a lot of ravens and crows and stuff all summer. So I finally like made him an altar area and everything. And it's just been, the signs have been ridiculous, for, even more so since then. But I saw this girl, on Instagram, and she was studying the runes daily and doing like a meditation and all these things with her, like a rune every day, and writing about it in her grimoire. And that day on my live, I was talking about how like I really wanted a big grimoire to be able to like pass down to my son and just have like this one notebook, like that's a nice big shadow book of shadows, like um a grimoire type of big nice journal. And that day I went to the mall, and it's like I manifested it because it was at the store I went to the store to get a smaller journal, and they were buy one get one half off, so I was able to get both of them. And the big one was like 60 by 20, like it's sitting out in my living room on like underneath all like their altars, like on the table, which is now turning into its own little altar. Like, and I got that, and now I've been writing in it every day, doing like a channeled message for Odin on the certain rune that I'm studying. And I missed like studying it today, and it's like, I have to prioritize sometimes of like, because I thought that I had to do the channeled message still from the one that I studied yesterday, but it turned out I did it already. So I just got some more stuff in meditation this morning on that rune, which is the willow rune. And it's just funny because I feel bad, but like I also have to prioritize because I have so many different like things that I'm doing and working on at once, that I have to take certain days to do certain things, and other days to do others.
Well, that's what I learned with my calendar is like consistency is 51%. Steps forward and one step back, and like you're still gonna make it through all of it. You know what I mean? Like I had a tendency to like give up if I missed a day for the longest time. But I think, yeah, if you can like, oh whatever, I'll do two today or something,
Yes, absolutely. Like I feel things come in waves, come and go in waves, and we have to just go with, like, for me especially, like I have to just go with what I'm feeling that day, like how my energy's feeling, what my interests are peaking in that day or whatever. But I also have to keep balance. Like I can overindulge in certain things, like making videos or whatever, and then forget completely about like everything else that I was already planning on doing that day, when I planned my week.
I as you're talking, I'm seeing too, because what I was gonna say when you mentioned like ancestors too, I really connect with like Leonardo and Merlin. Those are a couple of my like archetypes. I definitely have like wizard, magician type energy, and that's what I was seeing as you were talking about that. Like I like my favorite characters are like the wizard who has to like constantly study their spell book, and that's so you're talking about like this grimoire and stuff like that. Like I love that. I don't have that kind of I would love to have that kind of discipline. That just is beautiful to me. But I want like the magic without the work.
Don't we all just want that?
Yeah, where it's just
And like, but it's like that's what I feel like the our other realms that we're from, even like are like the non-human 3D realms are very like all of that without the work. And maybe that's why we came here, was to experience putting in the work, and the steps up, and then getting knocked down, and stuff like that. I feel like that's part of the growth. When I finding a new ambition or a new idea in my mind, it's like I want to go after it full force. But then I forget like all of the other million different things that I've had. Like I literally had an idea just the other day, and I had to sit down and be like to my guys, like, do I need to tackle this right now? And they're just like, bitch, you got way too much going on. Like, calm down. Your ADHD is like kicking in again.
as you're talking, I'm hearing, I can't remember who, it might have been like Greg Braden. I can't remember who said it, but the difference between balance and harmony. Like balance, when we achieve balance and we're like, okay, I got this system now, and like, here's the structure and everything is like balanced and smooth. That's a signal in nature for growth. So every time that we achieve like that equilibrium, there's some catalyst that makes us, and so like ADHD is kind of a natural way of being, because we're not meant to like have this kind of homogenous experience. It's supposed to be harmony, where there's like a symphony, where there's like the wind section and the brass and the strings, and they all kind of like play. They don't play all the same time. They play in their different parts, but it all works together. And I think that's what. So it's like you do your rune study and you practice your Reiki, and then someone comes into your life to show you this, but it all, and so in order to accommodate that, in order to hear all the, someone with ADHD can listen to all of the symphony all at once. And if you don't have that skill, you can't appreciate that. That's why I love bluegrass music, because there's like so many parts moving. And so it occupies all those, it gives your brain all the plates to keep spinning. So I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we're like, oh, I gotta figure out how to like make everything work in this way like a machine. I don't think that's how we
Yeah, that's not how we operate. No, yeah, you're right.
I don't think that's how we work. Yeah.
Yes, like it's crazy to think that we have to put ourselves in this box or compartmentalize ourselves in a niche or whatever it is because I mean as multidimensional beings, we all should have multiple, interests and I believe everybody has multiple purposes. I don't think we're all just here to do like one exact thing. Like maybe we have a main like overall mission as individuals and like reason overall like umbrella reason as to why we're here like to help raise the vibration of the collective is what I think I'm here to do, but I'm doing that in a million different ways.
Yeah, me too.
So when is a time that you took a step out of your comfort zone and it paid off?
Okay, so so I was, oh my God. So I used to sell perfume out of a bag. Have you ever run into somebody who sells perfume out of a bag? So I did that for like years, right? And I like hired people to do it and everything. But before I did that, and I loved it, it was great. It was such a wonderful experience. But before I did that, I was terrified to speak in front of a group. Like I failed driver's ed because I refused to give like the stand in front and talk, give some presentation. So I was like, no, just fail me. I don't need my driver's license. Like that was how scared I was. And then one of my first jobs, I applied at a hotel. I just wanted to make beds. I was like, I just want to throw my hair up in a ponytail and go make beds. I don't want people. And they're like, the creepy restaurant manager like looked me up and down and said, no, you belong in the restaurant. And I was like, ugh, okay, but the job. So I took the waitressing job. And then it turned out I really liked waitressing and I was really good at it. And so it kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone to talk to people. And then I took one of those jobs at that perfume place, right? And I ended up speaking. I got to the point where I was speaking in front of hundreds of people and I loved it. And I actually love public speaking. And had I not gone out of my comfort zone to like take waitressing jobs and do that kind of thing, and I was I was talking to hundreds of people a day selling that perfume, and I made a lot of money doing it too. I really liked it, and I traveled. I went to like 35 states, so it really paid off for me to step into that. And now I really plan on someday doing a TED talk or some shit. I don't know. But I mean, I'm on, on social media live all the time. But well, and it's funny because even though I was on stage, going live in front of a camera was terrifying. And it took me like a year before I could do my first live. It was so weird. So that was
Yeah, like I have, like in high school, like I had a hard time with public speaking. Like I would get like all dizzy and hot, and it was like a full blown panic attack mode. Like I hated speaking in front of people. But when I get on live, like from the beginning, it's been kind of natural, and I think it's because like I can feel the energy of the people, and I have control of the room, and I don't have to let anyone in that I don't want to let in and stuff like that. But it's also like I don't have to see them all looking at me. Like I know that you're looking at me, but I don't see you looking at me.
obvious. Hmm. When I first went live, I created a Facebook group that and didn't invite anybody into it. So it was an empty Facebook group. And then I just practiced going live in an empty group. It worked.
Yeah, whatever works, right? Okay, so last question. What does spiritual evolution mean to you?
Life. I think that life is expansive by nature. Um, and so spiritual evolution. I think in some it's funny because like part of my brain says it's an inevitability, that's just the nature that we just constantly evolve. And at the same time, it feels sometimes like we're not evolving, but we're more, it's more of a remembering or it's a reconnection. So part of me wants to say like it doesn't really exist. Like we don't, everything exists all at once and now. And so there isn't really an evolution because it's all one. I don't know.
Like everything is already connected. So like everything is already in existence. So it's yeah, it can get really like deep really quickly.
It feels that way though, doesn't it? Like it
Especially with people that I'm meeting that in the last couple of years online, now that I have been calling in like people that I know my soul is connected to, it's crazy how much it feels like I know them already. Like I'm remembering our, friendship, or I'm remembering our connection, and it's so different than any kind of like meeting a new person that I've ever really felt.
yeah. Well, that's what people will like. People will be like, "Oh, hey, it's me," and I'll be like, "God," and I'll meet someone, and I'll be like, "Did I meet them before?" Because everyone feels familiar to me, and I don't know, like, I don't know if we've met before, but I know you.
Yes, it's like my soul knows you. Like our souls know each other. Our spirit knows each other, and it's super incredible. I love it.
I pulled a card for the new year, and the title of the card was Kindred. So it was like the theme for this year is Kindred.
I just got like a shooting pain, like right in my heart, like chakra side. Like you're hitting me today, girl.
I was like, oh God, that's a lot of people. Yeah. Uh-huh. Me too. And I think that's so I have this art activity that I do sometimes with my groups is like it's a cave drawing. Like you draw the inside of a cave and the outside, and then you write a little story about the being that lives in that cave. And I remember mine, the first time I did it was like there were mountains and stuff, and the cave was really comforting to me. And I was like, oh, I like the idea of like I was a dragon. So I was like, oh, I could go out and like fly around and like experience the outside. And then I always have this little cave to come back, you know? So I get it. Like I get overwhelmed and then I'm like, I could go back.
It's so funny you say that because I know that in a past life I was a dragon, and that is what like I have always really resonated with that and like the fairy realm a lot. So it's so funny you say that. You just had dragon out twice in this episode.
It was in my well, it was in my drawing, but yeah, so my yeah, I have dragon. Well, so I'm a dragon in the Chinese zodiac, I guess, too. So the year I'm a dragon. Yeah. And I've always, since I was little, been drawn to dragons.
When I was a little girl, I was obsessed with Dragon Tales. Like everything, it was everything.
Oh, Dragon Tales was awful. That's one of those shows when I talk to my son, I'm like, oh, I love Dragon Tales. He's like, yeah, I know you made me watch it all the time.
I literally like I tried to get my son to watch it, and he was just like not into it at all. He's like, "Mom, put Pokemon back on." Like,
There were shows. What did I? Oh, it was Adventure Time. I continued to watch Adventure Time long after my son was not interested in it.
I watched Adventure Time before I even had a kid. Like I've always loved Adventure Time for sure. He's like all into these like these like Cocomelon and these like weird new shows that they have out, and I really like I'm nervous because there's a lot of conspiracy theories around these, like that they're like hypnotic type of shows, and he will sit there and just stare at the TV for hours, and I can't let obviously like I don't let him stare at the TV for that long, but like, he would if I let him. And it's crazy. Like I after like an hour and a half, I'm like, all right, we gotta do something different because like you are too into this right now.
That's like the Teletubbies were very strange. I remember my brother and our children are the same, about the same age, and I remember him calling me up. He's like, "Have you seen this shit?" And I'm like, so
Yes, I watched Teletubbies when I was a little girl, and looking back on it, it's like, what in the actual fuck?
what is that? I don't know. But it was, there was something about the quality of it that it would just kind of.
When we first started, like, when I first started showing him TV shows and stuff, I was like, I'm only gonna let him watch '90s shows. Like, I'm only gonna have him watch like things like, Cat Dog, and what else, Pokemon, and little like kid like shows from the '90s, from like Scooby Doo to like things that I watched when I was like Powerpuff Girls, like kid shows. But what from like when I grew up,
Because I know those, and I know they're safe, right? Yeah.
because I yeah.
Did you ever watch Kipper? Did you ever watch Kipper? Have you ever heard of that? It was like dogs or something. It's called Kipper. Yeah, and it was kind of like, you remember Caillou, right?
Yes, I loved Caillou. Yes, and then
Like that, where it was like watercolor on a white background, and it was kind of like it's like soothing. There's something about like Caillou too. It just kind of makes your brain waves go like, you know.
there was that one, God, it was like an in between, I think, like thing that where it was like a watercolor background, but it was like this cartoon would take a big ass like paintbrush and be like dipping it and then painting on the thing with this big paintbrush. It was so weird, but it's something I just remember it for some reason.
That was an in between thing. I remember that because it was kind of like Harold and the Purple Crayon. Have you ever heard of that book?
Yes, I do remember Harold and the crayon and the purple crayon. Yes, you like created. Yep. And then yeah, like I have been like having him watch Franklin because it's just like I'm so nervous about this whole Cocomelon thing. Like I don't know.
Oh, I loved Franklin. Oh,
Make sure we get some inner child work in there, right? But yeah, I'm really excited that we got a chance to get together, and I'm gonna have to go and get my phone charged and take care of my little guy. But it was so much fun to finally get to speak with you and get to know you better. I'm so grateful that you came on the podcast. Thank you so much.
it was great talking with you. Thank you so much for the invite.
All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed the episode as much as I did, and I can't wait to join Linda on her podcast. I hope you guys go check her out. The links to her social media platforms will be in the description below. Have an awesome day, guys, and as individuals.